for the 3rd Congressional District of Mississippi. There's a lot of candidates that are running, and one of those that's running is Whit Hughes. Now, if you bleed maroon and white, you know who Whit Hughes is. Obviously, he was part of that NCAA Final Four team under Coach Richard Williams. If you're not, though, he's here, and he wants you to get to know him. Whit, how are you, and welcome.
I'm doing well, JT. Thanks for having me on, bud. I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you and the SuperTalk audience.
Absolutely. Live in Madison now.
That's correct.
You have tell people what you were doing and kind of how you got up to this point and to why you're running.
Sure. If you go back to the early years of my career experience, I spent a lot of time helping elect conservatives around the country and in this state, and then was deputy director of Mississippi Development Authority, so have experience doing economic development on behalf of the state. I had my own consulting business focused on 6 or 7 economic sectors for a period of time, and then in recent years I've gained healthcare experience as the foundation president and chief development officer at Baptist Health System.
Can I interrupt you for just a second?
Please.
The train returning to Charlottesville with members of Congress, or they're going to go back and bus. I have been in contact with Congressman Greg Harbor. He was on that bus. I asked him if he was on the train. I asked him if he was okay, and I asked him if he wanted to check in with us on the show. He said, I can't right now. We are on the train and very shaken but not injured. I really thought we were going to leave the tracks. Thankful we are okay. We have a number of Republican doctors who did everything they could for the 2 in the truck. Several members are hurt, but I don't think serious. Request prayers for those 2 in the truck and their families. I'll try to connect to you later, but just no way I can do it now. That's from Congressman Greg Harper.
Wow, I'm glad to know he's safe and sound.
Yeah.
We need to keep them in our thoughts and prayers.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So you grew up in Jackson.
Did grow up in Jackson, and have been back in the Madison community since 2003.
Mm-hmm.
My wife's from here as well. We both have degrees from Mississippi State, and of course I was there, got an undergraduate degree and an MBA in the 5 years that I was there, and I played 2 years of baseball and 5 years of basketball, and you were very nice to mention my basketball experience there. You know, it's been funny. I've been in the race for 2 weeks today, JT, and I've traveled probably close to 2,500 miles.
Wow.
And of course, I'm going to talk to anybody that'll see me and
sure.
asking for their votes and their supports and their insights and their guidance. And I keep trying to talk about my campaign, and people keep wanting to talk about the Final Four.
Yeah.
Which is good with me. I mean, that's a big part of my life, both personally and professionally, and very proud of the success we had there. And I'll tell you what, if you watch the MSU women's team this year, I think they have a chance to make another deep run.
Watch them. I have to all the time. My wife's actually going to the South Carolina game on Monday. Her and my daughter, they've already attended one. Those Coach Schaefer actually took a selfie with my daughter in Oxford. He goes up in the stands after the games. I think that's so cool. And what they're doing, and boy, his daughter's just tough, man. Is she not the toughest player on the team?
I really enjoy watching them play. And I tell you, the most impressive thing, JT, is that when I was there, if you had 900 people at a women's game, it was a pretty big deal. And now they're having 9,000 plus there. And I know the South Carolina game on Monday is going to be a packed house. And the men are competing well too. You know, once you get in the conference season, it's pretty demanding, and you got to kind of hold court at home and then do what you can to compete on the road. And I look forward to seeing them finish out the rest of the conference season strong.
What are you going to do? Talk about what you see in our state right now today, and talk about what you plan to do if you can make it to Congress.
Sure. Well, this is a serious step for me and my family, and but I'm confident it's the right step. And it's really just about folks being frustrated with Washington D.C.
Mm-hmm.
And when I look at my family, I have 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter, and when I look at my family, I get concerned about what the future holds for our country and our state. And, I mentioned my career experience earlier, and I've always on some level felt like serving Mississippians was a big part of who I am and what I've done personally and professionally. And this opportunity is just a natural extension along those lines. And, folks are frustrated. They appreciate the fact that I've never run for office.
Mm-hmm.
I've never held office. There's a lot of fatigue out there with the proverbial career politicians that are standing in line, hoping to hold our office. That what I've heard from people is that they want somebody that they know, somebody that they trust, somebody that's going to be accessible, but more importantly, somebody that's going to fight. whether that means driving conservative legislation that aligns with Mississippi priorities, or somebody will step up and show leadership whenever there's an opportunity to bring an opportunity to their community. And I believe what's on top of mind for voters right now is jobs and the economy. I mean, I've in the past 2 weeks I've talked about pretty much every issue under the sun on some level, but it's really been very interesting to see how focused people are on more jobs and a stronger economy. And of course, that speaks directly to my background and my skill set and my relationships.
So you actually stepped down from your position at Baptist, correct?
That's correct, and that was certainly one of the major considerations in making this decision. It's a great organization. I'm really proud of my time there and what we've accomplished, and it's even though I spent most of my time as the head of our foundation, one thing I appreciate about our team is that we all felt like we had a role in caring for people, and that organization is certainly known for world-class healthcare and service, but I have resigned from that position and am transitioning away from that now, and so I can be in this campaign full speed ahead, full time.
Well, and the reason why I brought that up, Whit, is I want people to understand what your commitment here. So, what happens if you don't make it? I mean, you've left a very important, very prestigious job to do this. I mean, that's a big, brave, bold step right there.
It is a bold step, but I think it's time for sharp, young, dynamic leaders to take bold steps, not only here in the state but in Washington D.C. And so that's why, hopefully that helps validate what I'm sharing with
your
people
commitment.
When I tell them I'm committed to this, I'm passionate about this, I'm very serious about running a 24-county campaign. I believe that voters want every county in the district included in a campaign. I think that's what they deserve. They want somebody to campaign that way, and they want somebody to serve every county in the district when they're on Capitol Hill. And so I'm talking a lot about that. I mentioned to you the mileage that I've already put on the road in just the first 2 weeks, and again, that just goes back to the fact that if you just look at how things have played out for me over the course of my life, any level of success I've had has always been because I've been willing to outwork people. And that's the kind of campaign I'm going to run, and that's the kind of congressman I'll be. We talked a little bit about basketball earlier. A lot of people don't know this, but when I first got to Starkville, I had 3 people in front of me in my position. And let's be honest, I was successful, but it wasn't because I was jumping higher or scoring more points than those guys. I was just willing to play a role and to outwork everybody. And so over the course of time, I was fortunate enough to eventually be the 6th man on the 1996 Final Four team and start for a couple of years. And then actually one of the things I'm proudest of is that at the end of my career, I held the university record for games played.
Well, you didn't get that without earning it, that's for sure. I want to talk a little bit about your political experience coming up. Obviously, I'll be honest with you, Whit, I didn't realize how deeply you have been involved in conservative politics here in Mississippi. My apologies, but as I've sat here and done my homework here leading up to this interview, you have been very involved, even to the point of being along with a very successful run with Haley Barbour when he became governor. I want you to unpack that a little bit as well. And I really want you to talk about what you can do for business. Obviously, this President Trump, the tax form, my wife sent me a text this morning. She got her first check. I hadn't even looked at my check stub, but there's more money in my envelope today because of this tax cut. I want you to talk about that and what you can do for businesses and those different things like that. Whit Hughes is here with us. He's asking for your vote today, or not today, but in June when it comes time to vote to replace Greg Harper. You have done a lot. Done a lot since 2013, a leadership role in the Christian Healing Mission at the Ministry of Baptist Health Systems as the foundation president, the chief development officer. You've done all parts of everything there, but you've also been involved with politics quite extensively that I didn't realize about. Kind of unpack that a little bit, Whit, and tell us what you've been able to do.
Sure, I'd be glad to. But before I do that, JT, let me just say I ran into my buddy Rod Henderson with Make-A-Wish in the green room. He's a good friend. We actually coached a youth basketball game against each other last night. But listen, I just want share with you how much I appreciate the partnership y'all have with Make-A-Wish. They have a great mission and do great work. To just get back to my political experience, you're right. The early years of my career, I did a lot of political campaigns. I was involved in various capacities. Started in North Carolina, led to being a leader with the Republican Eagles program, which is one of the donor programs at the RNC, helping elect conservatives around the country. Great experience with that, and very successful, and that led to me being the finance director for Elizabeth Dole's first Senate campaign in North Carolina. So it was a wonderful opportunity to get to know Senator Dole and of course Bob Dole and their family, and ultimately that led back to Mississippi. When Governor Barber first ran for governor in 2003, he asked me if I'd be willing to come back home and help him with his campaign. And that's what I did, and fortunately we were very successful with that campaign, and I believe we raised $15 million to support that campaign, and you know the rest of the story. And ultimately that led me into doing economic development on behalf of the state. So, but JT, I mean, it's one of these same old deals that once you get politics in your blood, you never truly get out of it. So I've always stayed aware and involved, and certainly had experience over the years trying to help people here in the state that I felt like were right for the positions.
Well, you've been in politics, but not as a politician, and now going to try to dabble in that way. Obviously, I got to ask you this question, Whit, and this is a personal question. You got 3 kids. You got a 15, a 13, and a 10-year-old. You coach them in basketball, baseball, football, and soccer. I mean, obviously, I believe that's what took its toll on Greg after a while. He honestly told me that he said, man, 148 plane trips a year for 10 years, do the math, JT, and about to have a grandbaby. Obviously, Livingston was part of his decision. You're going to be away from these kids, and these are times that you're not going to get back with. I'm going to take it from somebody who is in an empty nest right now. I'm just asking you this question. You're going to step away from a very important role of being in their lifetime, in the way it sounds like you're truly involved.
That's right.
It had to be a hard decision.
No, I'm prepared for that. I'm not. Those that know me know that I'm driven by faith and family.
Right.
And again, that speaks to why my wife and I took this decision as seriously as it deserves to be taken.
Mm-hmm.
We both know what it takes to run a successful campaign, and to an even greater extent, we know what's involved if you're fortunate enough to win and serve the 3rd district.
Sure.
And so we're prepared for that. And it's not a step that I or anybody else should take lightly. But again, I appreciate the opportunity to offer myself up for public service. As I mentioned earlier, I've always felt like serving Mississippians was a big part of my life, and I'm serious about this. And hopefully, just in the first 2 weeks, people can see that, and they can feel that, and I'll tell you that one of the things I wanted to accomplish was to be in all 24 counties within the first 2 weeks of this campaign, and so we're really close. And by the end of the day on Friday, we'll be able to check that box off the list. So.
Well, I mentioned this to one of your opponents, Senator Doty, earlier today. You remember when Greg won this seat, he wasn't the lead dog. Especially when it came to money. He wasn't really the lead dog when it came to name recognition. But somehow, after about 4 pairs of shoes and a set of tires on that old Garth Brooks tour bus, he became the congressman. I believe, Whit, that this is going to be, the person that wins this is going to outwork the other guys. And I think that's how it's going to happen. Obviously, I think you may have an advantage when it comes to that, just from what I've heard from you today. The good news, though, is no matter who wins this, the people of District 3 in my district, we're gonna retain a conservative lawmaker in that position. But I go back to that, is that he wasn't the lead dog that he wanted. So this is going to be, as we say, a dog fight.
That's right. And listen, I believe I'm going to be the best conservative Republican candidate for this position, and I believe I'm going to work harder than everybody else. And at the end of the day, that's what is going to drive success. You have multiple people in this primary, and listen, it's June the 5th, so it's a very tight window. That's not a lot of time to try to get out and organize in 24 counties. And And there's going to, because it's such a tight window, there's going to be an obvious focus on fundraising. But on a real foundational level, you have to have that political organization. You have to have the grassroots support. And, I've been real humbled to activate a network of political and financial support in communities all around this district. And so, the business case is there for me. This is, as I mentioned, this is a serious step for me and my family, but I believe this is the right step. And, I'm looking forward to the weeks and months ahead. I mean, if you don't enjoy and appreciate opportunities to get out and go see people and sit down with them and really spend more time listening than anything else, then you shouldn't jump into the middle of a campaign like this. And so I'm real focused and energized and enjoying this process.
Well, obviously it's going to be a long process, and there we go. Just a couple of quickies. I'm just going to sling them at you there. Things that my listeners are interested in. National reciprocity. That's a big topic right here on this show. The fact that I'm legal to carry in Mississippi, protect myself and my family, but there's other states that I can't. What's your position on that one right there? Well,
it's there's going to be times where I'm going to talk a lot about traditional issues,
sure.
Protecting life, protecting Second Amendment, and I'm going to have strong conservative positions along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
You had asked me before the break. You had asked me about tax cuts.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm a big believer in listening to what the marketplace is telling us, and I think you can already see the positive residual benefits of that kind of decision making in D.C. And as I've been traveling around the district, I've talked to hundreds of people at this point, and they all want to talk about President Trump. And I've made it clear that I support the president, and we should all want him to be successful because that means our country and our state has an opportunity to be successful. But I'll tell you what, in a first year of his administration, he has an impressive list of accomplishments, whether you're talking about the tax reform or cutting regulations or judges or, really pleased to see a lot of dialogue around infrastructure right now. That was a key component of the State of the Union speech last night. I believe he talked about unleashing about $1.5 trillion to address infrastructure. And I can tell you from an economic developer's point of view, if you're going to true economic development involves supporting those that are already doing business and employing people in your community. So you have to start there. But certainly if you're going to position for new jobs and new investment, you have to be able to answer certain questions the right way. And that has to do with infrastructure and your transportation connectivity and, the accessibility and affordability of health care. And, all these things play into the business case to bring more jobs and a stronger economy to our state.
Whit Hughes, you can see his website, whithughesforcongress.com, I believe.
That's correct. I hope everybody will go there to learn more and connect to all the social media, and I look forward to earning everybody's support in the weeks and months ahead.
Well, there you go. Whit Hughes running for Congress, District 3, to replace Congressman Greg Harper.